210 years of back-breaking slavery because we don't care about morality anymore.
America is not safe for Jews anymore.
Very, very worried about Jewry outside of Israel. You cannot differentiate and separate Zion from Judaism.
We have this golden era of Judaism, which you can tell me if you agree with this or not, from, let's say, the founding of the State of Israel until October 7th, in my opinion, in America and in Israel to a greater or lesser degree. Would you agree with that? And would you agree with we're now kind of back to business as usual for the Jewish people?
I would agree about outside of Israel. I absolutely do not agree in Israel. Listen, if anyone is surprised by what's going on right now, then they haven't been paying attention. Like, open a history book, dude. Come on. Like, we knew what was going to happen. It happens in every generation. In every single generation, it's the same script over and over and over again. And when I say the same script, I don't only mean the anti-Semitism. I mean how we react to anti-Semitism, aka assimilation. Oh, don't hate us. We're just like you, Greeks and Romans and Nazis and Soviets. We're just like you. Don't come at us. It doesn't work. Like, it just doesn't work, right? And that's what we think we're doing now. We're the most liberal people in America, the Jews. Like, stop it. Stop voting Dems. Stop, like, you're nuts. People hate you. Enough already, you know? The golden era for the Jewish people around the world is absolutely over. I think we've gone through a transition that is so fundamental, and I don't think many people realize that. And that is, we've transitioned in a day from a world in which anti-Semitism was always there, but it was under the surface and it was considered taboo and it was just wrong. Like, it was wrong. And so they had to play the charade of, oh, it's not anti-Semitism, it's just anti-Zionism. And now we're in a world where not only is anti-Semitism legitimate, it's actually trendy and cool. And so this is a fundamental shift. I don't think most people realize it. So yeah, the golden era is over. I honestly, the only thing that surprises me is that it took this long. But in Israel, are you kidding me? We're just getting started, man. This country is a freaking splitting of the sea every single day.
I love it, and I agree with you. And you said some pretty strong comments recently. You know, I'm trying to keep up pace with your content. You talked about how America is not safe for Jews anymore. And I was just I'm in California. There's 1.2 million approximately Jews that live here. Talk about that. What are your feelings about that? And you know, what's your evidence and what do you think's coming?
I'll tell you something. We are a really stupid nation. Like, we're a really dumb nation. We are so dumb. In every generation, it's the same freaking thing. Dude, like 10 plagues. I mean, literally bending nature for us. God's like, let me just get out of this Egypt thing, get out of here. And we're like, you know what? I think we'll stay. 80% of the Israelites stayed. 80%. People, it's unbelievable. Like, what? After every 210 years of back-breaking slavery, 10 plagues, God's like, literally, get out of here. No, we'll stay. What are you, nuts? Right? The splitting of the sea. We get to the sea after everything God did for us, and we're yelling at him like he's going to kill us. Like, he's going to let us die here. Like, dude, wake up. God's performing incredible miracles before your eyes, and you're just not paying attention. It happened to me in my lifetime, but America's done, man. It's done. Like, the empire's done. Is it going to take a year or a decade? I don't know, but it's the end. The Western civilization as we know it is done. You can't ignore what's going on in the UK or in Montreal or, you know, many other. It's Sharia law, dude. That's it. It's East versus West, and they seem to be winning. And you know, if you look at the script throughout history, what happens? This is the script. I'm telling you right now. This is what happens. There's an empire, and it grows in influence, and it continues to grow until it reaches complete world dominance. And the first thing that it does is throws morality out the window, aka putting people to fight to their death in the Colosseum, or forgetting about the fact that we have gender, which is the most fundamental principle of nature, because we don't care about morality anymore. We have this tool called anti-Semitism that we're going to show you that you're not just like us. And then it hits the fan. What happens next is the fall of the empire. In every single empire, just open a history book. And so morality's gone out the window, anti-Semitism spiked, and the next step is the fall of the empire. I mean, you got anti-Semites in Congress, you got people being beaten in the streets half to death, people being murdered because they're Jews. It's going to get worse and worse and worse, and it's going to get exponentially worse, and it's going to get a lot worse very fast. So people need to wake up. And again, the German Jews didn't wake up, and we look back like, why didn't you read the writing on the wall? Well, the answer is, why the hell are you not reading the writing on the wall? What has to happen? So I'm very, very worried about Jewry outside of Israel. I just came from Montreal last week. It is absolutely sickening. And I don't know any other word to. You cannot walk 5 minutes without seeing Palestinian flags. You cannot order an Uber because every Uber tells you that the streets are all blocked because of Palestinians. It is not livable. If you are a Jew in Montreal, you are living in constant threat. And I'm saying Montreal, I'm singling them out, but the same is true for the UK. And unfortunately, the same is true for many cities in the United States. The state of California ain't not in such good shape, but it's spreading like a freaking cancer, and it's not slowing down, and it's terrifying.
Let's say there's approximately 8 million, maybe 9 million Jews outside of Israel. Everyone decides to come. Is there room? We're going to fit them in?
100%. If every Jew comes to Israel, the Jewish people will instantly become infinitely more powerful and more unified.
You'd mentioned some things about, I think you used the word, and correct me if I'm wrong here, sort of the infestation of radical Islam in our country here in America. Talk about that a little bit.
This isn't a new thing. The funny thing is, it's so ironic, right? We're like, just take the Palestinians as an example, right? The same people who are like, they deserve a state and they deserve independence, are the same people who say, don't take them seriously when they say they want to murder you. Like, come on, don't hold them accountable. So wait, are they little kids throwing a tantrum, or are they people that deserve a state? Make up your mind. You can't be both, right? And so when radical Islam states clearly, they're not even embarrassed to say it, like they want to take over the world. They want every infidel dead. It's not. This isn't like, oh, I can't hear it. They're being subtle about it. They're not being subtle about it. Except the Western world is like, no, they don't mean it. Would you stop with that already? They mean it. We see the anti-Semitism as clear as day. In fact, the very call from the river to the sea is literally, not figuratively, but in reality, when you're anti-Zionist, you're anti-Jewish. And I want to correct myself and say that it's not that you're using anti-Zionism as an excuse. And Zionism, and this needs to be said, like yelled from every, Zionism is as core to Judaism as Jesus is to Christianity or Mecca is to Islam. You cannot differentiate and separate Zion from Judaism. Anybody who's spent 12 seconds in a synagogue sees the word Zion thousands of times mentioned in our prayers and in the Torah. It's absurd to even try to separate those two things. They are core to each other. They're not, there's Zionism, there's Judaism. Zionism is Judaism by definition. So the media war is a very, very important discussion. There's no question that we're losing that war. I will say in our defense, we're getting better, but we are losing the war. We're losing the war for a completely different reason. The reason most people think we're losing the war is because they outnumber us 1,000 to 1. The reason we're losing the war is because their narrative could not possibly be more digestible. You are oppressing us, free Palestine. That's it. Like, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You can be a 2-year-old kid or a 95-year-old grandmother, and you get that. It's as simple and easy to digest as possible. What is our narrative? Go look at any Jewish influencer online, and what are they talking about? Oh my God, the world hates us. Great. So you're yelling at the world that hates you about how much they hate you. Well, how is that in any way effective? Oh, there's a double standard. Look at the New York Times, their horrible title. Great. So what? What's the point? That's what you're spending your time and resources doing. What are you doing? What is our narrative? So not only do we not have a narrative, but whatever we do have is completely fragmented. Everyone's saying their own thing. We have no unified narrative. Now, what's the solution? The solution is clear as day. We should have a narrative, and the narrative should be one word: light. Light. The Jewish people have been nothing but a source of light in this world. We are in a very dark world right now, whether it's Nobel Prizes, whether it's cancer research, whether it's, rescue missions, whether there's natural disasters, whatever you want to look at, the Jewish people have been nothing but a source of light in this world. The bottom line is we're only losing the war because we are not telling the right story. We need to own how amazing we are, and we need to stop being embarrassed and shy away from who we are and what we are.
The libel that Jews control the media, and yet we can't even get our stuff together in our media campaign. Look, how about this? An indigenous peoples back to the land movement. That's something that I'm trying to push out in the Western world, certainly on college campuses, because that tends to land a little bit better. And also bringing light, you could bring to light the fact that 25% of all Nobel Peace Prizes were Jews. So I think it's great.
Do you know how many countries are involved in this war? Like, if you count the countries that are involved in this war, whether it's militarily, financially, diplomatically, politically, there are tens, probably 30 countries in this world that are involved in this war in an active way. I'm not talking about like, oh, I don't like the Jews. No, actively. There are tens of countries involved in this war. We are in World War III right now. We don't know it yet. We'll know it in 20, 30, 50 years from now. We are in World War III right now. I fundamentally believe that. And the world doesn't clearly understand who's right and who's wrong here. The world's upside down. Morality is backwards, okay? And so terrorists are freedom fighters, democracies are apartheids. Like we are living in an upside down world. Why is the world obsessed with this war? Like, why is it the only thing anyone's talking about? Is it because of the casualty numbers? Obviously not, right? I mean, even if you go with Hamas's ridiculously fabricated numbers and multiply them by 5, it doesn't even come close to what happens in Syria and other genocides around the world. And when I say other genocides, I mean real genocides. So why is the world obsessed, right? The world's obsessed because this is the script. It doesn't make any sense. This is all supernatural. This is all bigger than you and I. We need to understand that. We need to stop looking at this war through a human lens because we will lose our minds. It doesn't make any sense.
What is your vision for what needs to happen next in Israel?
I think it's time. We have to stop with the appeasement already. I think we have to do what we need to do. And war is tragic, and innocents die in war. And nobody in their right mind would have come at the Allies for attacking Germany, despite the fact that millions of quote unquote innocent Germans were killed in World War II. The Palestinian people, I should say again, the Arab people who call themselves Palestinians, voted for Hamas as a people. That's it. We see the polls, 90% support October 7th. So there are innocent people that are going to die. Of course, is that a tragedy? It is. But we didn't want this war. They forced it upon us, and now they're paying the price, and they need to pay the price. We need to stop. We need to stop with the silk gloves or whatever. Enough already. We need to do what we need to do. Stop with the humanitarian aid. Stop putting our kids and our brothers and sisters in danger on foot into Gaza. Do what needs to be done. I'm not, God forbid, calling for carpet bombing of Gaza. Of course not. We need to do it. We use precision missiles, F-16, F-35s. Do what we need to do. Use our tools, but we need to stop putting their lives on top of our lives. It's insanity. It's true insanity. And what do we think? Like idiots. We're like, oh yeah, if only we do this, the world's going to love us. The world's going to hate us no matter what. We need to do what we need to do. And so we need to end this war, period. We need to win this war at all costs, by any means necessary. Sadly, and this is a frustration that I have, whoever defined the objectives of this war was clearly smoking something, because the two objectives of the war are mutually exclusive. You cannot defeat Hamas and get rid of every Hamas terrorist and get our hostages back. It's one or the other. If you're getting our hostages back, you have to negotiate with Hamas. And if you're obliterating Hamas, hostages are dead. So it's a sad reality. It's a horrible, tragic, but we need to do what we need to do. And again, it's so hard for me to say the following sentence. It breaks my heart. But unfortunately, we as a country need to defeat Hamas. We have to do whatever we can to bring back those hostages, dead or alive. But again, it's an impossible sentence to say, but unfortunately, tragically, the existence and the survival of the state of Israel depends on obliterating Hamas, and it does not depend on returning the hostages. So we need to do what's right for the state of Israel and for our existence, and that is to get rid of Hamas forever. And again, use all our resources to bring back those hostages. But unfortunately, that needs to take the back seat.
Okay, and so I know you can get rid of the actual troops of Hamas, but the ideology, it's anti-Semitism. So the ideology won't go away, but you can actually dismantle their military.
Yeah, you get them off my border, though. I don't want them on my border.
What does the Jewish world need now most, and why?
So I heard something really unbelievable well before the war. As you know, every year on Tisha B'Av, which is the saddest day on the Jewish calendar, everyone starts talking about baseless hatred, right? Because the second temple was destroyed because of baseless hatred. And it's like, we got to stop hating each other. We got to stop. We start unifying. And, that's why the temple was destroyed. Great. And of course, baseless hatred is horrible. But let's not forget that only one of the temples was destroyed because of baseless hatred. The other temple was destroyed because of the three sins, which are idolatry, murder, and what's the third one? Indecent relationships, whatever you want to call it, right? So I heard from a rabbi in Ra'anana an unbelievable thought. He said, people think today we are, guilty of this baseless hatred thing. No, we're actually guilty of the other three sins. Why? He says, think about Western culture, right? What do we have? We have the concept of cancel culture. When you cancel someone, you are murdering their essence. Like a person's name is everything, right? When you cancel someone, you murder their essence, right? So that's murder, right? Then we have wokeism. Wokeism has become the new idolatry. Like, let's just say it as it is. Wokeism and, the craziness that we're seeing in liberal society in America has become the new idol, right? And we worship it like an idol. And then we have the cancel thing. And then we have, again, please forgive me, I don't hate, anyone, whether they're trans, whether they're LGBTQ. I don't have any hatred in my heart, but this is a disintegration of something that should have been the most sacred thing in the world, right? And so those three things of indecent relationships, whatever you want to call it, murder and idolatry, that's what we're seeing in modern society. We need to stop that, right? And so you're asking what the Jewish people need. The Jewish people need to unify right now. We need to stop with the internal insanity, and we need to realize that you could take a person with 85 piercings and 400 tattoos in Tel Aviv and a Haredi guy, an ultra-Orthodox rabbi in Mea Shearim, and if you put them in a room, they will have more things in common, a lot more things in common than they have different, right? 90% of things they'll have in common, 10% they'll have different. And we need to focus on that 90%, not on the 10%. We spend our entire lives talking about the 10%. We need unity. We need to strengthen, ourselves, because the essence of the Jewish people don't realize this. What makes us strong is that unity. Just think about this one thing. When the Jewish people became the Jewish people at Mount Sinai, we got the Torah. What is the first thing The first adjective, the first description the Torah gives of the Jewish people. They stood and they parked by the mountain. What does the commentary say? With one, like one man with one heart. Our unity is our strength. And when we're not unified, our enemies smell our weakness. So we need to focus on our values. We need to stop letting Western values penetrate our souls because it is destroying us from within. And we need to unify over those values, our positive values, and what made us the Jewish people, what makes us, such an amazing nation. Focus on that, focus on unity, strengthen from within, win this war, and build, the next state of Israel 2.0.